Humanity watched in disbelief as the alien threat disintegrated before their eyes. But the device's signal did not stop with the fleet. It spread across space, moving faster than light, reaching distant Varun colonies and their homeworld. The network was collapsing everywhere. Every last ship, every system, every piece of Varun technology failed. Claire covered her mouth with her hands, tears streaming down her face. It's gone," she whispered. "They're gone." Jason Hale nodded grimly, though his eyes betrayed relief. "Earth has survived," he said, "but at a cost. Ethan, we don't know if he made it out." Inside the collapsing command ship, Ethan fought to escape. The craft shook violently as the core imploded, energy surging around him. He pulled the controls, weaving through the collapsing corridors, dodging falling debris and bursts of energy. Every second counted. Finally, the craft broke free from the command ship, escaping into open space. Ethan's hands were raw from gripping the controls. His breath came in shallow gasps. The core's explosion behind him lit up the darkness like a new sun. Claire and the council watched the feed, holding their breath. "Ethan," Claire whispered. "Did he make it?" The craft tumbled through space, battered but intact. Ethan's eyes met the stars above. For a moment, he allowed himself to breathe. He had delivered the device, destroyed the Varun fleet, and stopped the attacks on Earth. Humanity had won the first step of its war for survival, but he also knew the consequences. The device had not just destroyed the fleet, it had erased the Varun as a species. Their homeworld, their colonies, everything connected to the network was gone. No one survived. Back on Earth, humans began to understand what had happened. Cities were still in ruins, millions were dead, but the skies were clear. The alien threat was gone. Humanity had survived, and for the first time in months, people dared to hope. Claire stayed at the lab, monitoring the final signals from the device. It had completed its work. The network was gone, and the Varun no longer existed. She felt a mix of relief and horror. Humanity had struck back with a weapon unlike any before. They had used it wisely, but the cost was immense. Jason Hale addressed the remaining leaders of Earth's resistance. "We have survived the unthinkable," he said. "We have faced extinction and fought back. But we must remember what we have done. The Varun are no more. Humanity has shown the galaxy that we are not weak. We will rebuild, and we will never allow another species to threaten us again." Ethan, back on Earth in a recovery pod, finally opened his eyes. He was battered and bruised, but alive. The mission had succeeded. Humanity had survived, and for the first time in months, he allowed himself to feel hope. As the sun rose over a damaged but surviving Earth, humans began to pick up the pieces. Cities would be rebuilt, lives would be mourned, and stories would be told of the night humanity struck back against the Varun. For Ethan and Claire, the mission had changed them forever. They had faced death, seen the destruction of an entire species, and survived. They had learned that humanity could endure, fight, and even retaliate against the greatest threats. The world was quiet now, but the memory of the Varun attacks would remain, and humanity would remember the fire that burned in their hearts, the courage that led them to strike back, and the determination to survive against all odds. Earth had retaliated. Humanity had won. But the universe had noticed, and the stars would never look at Earth the same way again. The skies over Earth were finally quiet. No alien ships hovered above. No beams of light tore through the clouds. The fires that had consumed cities for months were dying down, leaving behind smoldering ruins and broken streets. Humanity had survived, but the victory did not feel simple. 10 million lives had been lost. Cities lay in ashes. Families had been shattered. And beyond Earth, the Vadarwon, the species that had tried to erase humanity, no longer existed. Their ships, their colonies, their homeworlds, all were gone. Humanity had struck back with a weapon no one had ever imagined, and the cost of survival was heavy. Claire Bennett walked through the remains of her lab, exhausted but alive. She looked at the devices, the computers, and the remnants of alien technology. The device she had helped create had completed its mission. The Varun network was gone, and the alien species was erased from existence. She could not celebrate. Instead, she felt a hollow emptiness. Humanity had survived, yes, but what they had done would stay with them forever. Jason Hale entered the lab, his boots echoing in the empty halls. "The fleet is gone," he said. "The skies are clear. Humanity survived because of what you did, Claire. All of you." Claire shook her head. "I did what I had to do. But the Varun are gone. All of them. Not just their fleet. Not just their ships. Their entire species. Erased." Jason's face was grim. "They killed 10 million of our people. They attacked without mercy. What we did, it was the only way to survive." Outside, Ethan Cole walked through the ruins of a city near the lab. He was battered and tired, but he was alive. He had returned from the strike craft, damaged but functional. The sight of broken streets, burned buildings, and abandoned homes reminded him of all they had lost. And yet, he also felt hope. Humanity had fought back. Humanity had won. Small groups of survivors were beginning to rebuild. They cleared rubble, tended to the wounded, and searched for those who had been lost. They killed 10 million humans. And Earth retaliated, erasing their species completely. Sci-fi. The sky was clear over New York, and the morning sunlight poured over the tall buildings. People were walking to work. Children were laughing on their way to school, and the city was alive with sound. No one noticed the small flicker far above, a tiny shadow against the sun. Ethan Cole, a former Air Force pilot, was drinking his morning coffee in his small apartment. He looked at the news on his old tablet, scrolling through stories about weather, politics, and the usual chaos of life. He didn't see anything unusual. Life seemed normal. Then the sky changed. It started as a flicker, a shimmer in the blue. But in moments, the shimmer became huge. Dark shapes appeared above the city, massive and silent. People stopped in the streets, staring upward. Some raised their phones, thinking it was some strange drone show. But it was no show. Claire Bennett, a young scientist working at a research lab in New Jersey, was analyzing signals from space. She had spent months watching the sky for strange transmissions, but nothing had prepared her for this. The signals weren't just strange. They were alive. They pulsed almost like a heartbeat, and the strange shapes above the earth were connected to them. Ethan stepped onto his balcony as the city below him started to panic. Sirens began to wail. Cars stopped in the streets. People screamed. The shadows above were moving slowly, deliberately, as if they were deciding who would live. Ah. Then the first blast hit. It started in Manhattan. A bright white light burned across the skyline. Glass shattered, buildings collapsed, and the streets were filled with fire. People ran blindly, some tripping, others jumping from windows. Ethan ducked as the shockwave from the explosion hit his building. His apartment shook violently, and coffee spilled across the floor. Ethan trained new pilots, teaching them how to defend Earth against threats that might come from the stars. The memory of the Varuun attacks remained fresh in his mind. Every drill, every lesson, every flight reminded him that humanity could not be weak again. As weeks turned into months, Earth began to heal. Forests slowly reclaimed burned cities. Rivers that had been black with debris cleared. People began planting crops, rebuilding homes, and forming communities. Survivors shared their stories, and children learned about the past. They learned about the Varuun attacks, the millions who had died, and the courage of the humans who had struck back. Claire and Ethan often walked together, discussing the future. They knew humanity had changed forever. They had faced extinction and survived. They had fought with courage, intelligence, and determination, and they had learned that humanity, even in the darkest times, could find a way to survive. But the universe had noticed. The destruction of the Varuun had not gone unnoticed by other species. Alien civilizations watching from afar saw what Earth had done. They saw a species willing to fight back, willing to use any means necessary to survive. Fear spread across the stars. Earth was no longer a quiet planet in the galaxy. It was a force to be reckoned with. One day, a signal arrived from deep space. It was faint, almost unrecognizable, but it carried a message. Claire worked to decode it, translating the alien language into human understanding. The message was not a threat, but a warning. "You have shown the galaxy what humans are capable of," it read. "Do not forget we are watching." Claire shivered as she read the message aloud. "The universe. They know what we did. They fear us." Ethan looked at her with determination. "Then we have to be ready. If anyone thinks they can harm Earth, they will learn the same lesson the Varuun did." Jason Hale addressed the surviving leaders of Earth. "The galaxy will remember what happened here. We survived the unthinkable. We struck back, but we must not grow overconfident. Humanity is strong, but the universe is vast. We must continue to learn, to prepare, and to grow stronger." Life on Earth slowly returned to a sense of normalcy, but nothing would ever be the same. Cities were rebuilt, but memories of destruction remained. Families mourned the dead, and monuments were built to honor those who had died. The Varuun fleet was gone, their species erased, but humanity carried the weight of what they had done. They had survived, yes, but survival had required choices that were not easy. The weapon that destroyed the Varuun would remain a reminder of the cost of survival and the power humans now held. Ethan and Claire stood on a rebuilt hill overlooking the city. Children played nearby, laughter filling the air. Humanity had survived the impossible. They had faced extinction and emerged stronger. Ethan looked at the stars, still bright and silent. "We survived," he said softly. "We will rebuild. And no one will ever erase us again." Claire nodded, a small smile on her face. "We have survived. We have learned, and we will be ready for whatever comes next." In the months that followed, humanity rebuilt more than cities. They rebuilt trust, courage, and hope. Communities worked together, sharing resources and knowledge. The lessons of the Varuun attacks became the foundation for a stronger, united Earth. Humans looked to the stars with new understanding. They had survived once, and they were ready to face the universe on their own terms. Humanity had learned that survival required courage, intelligence, and sometimes hard choices. And while the galaxy now watched Earth with caution, humans no longer feared the stars. They had faced extinction, fought back, and survived. They were no longer weak. They were a force to be reckoned with. The world would remember the cost. The skies would never forget the Varun. But humanity had proven itself.
Earth would endure. Humanity would endure.
And the stars, once distant and quiet, now carried the memory of a species that refused to die. The silence, after extinction, was not empty. It was full of strength, resilience, and a warning to the universe. Earth had survived. Humanity had fought back. And if anyone threatened them again, Earth would strike, and humanity would not hesitate. For the first time in centuries, the world felt both fragile and unbreakable. The future was uncertain, yes, but for the humans who had survived, it was also full of hope. Claire, Ethan, Jason, and the remaining survivors knew one truth above all: humanity would endure, no matter what the universe sent their way. And for Earth, that was enough. "This is impossible," he muttered to himself. Claire watched the signals on her screen spike violently. She realized in horror that these weren't just ships. They were weapons. They were scanning the Earth, choosing targets, and striking without hesitation. By the end of the first hour, New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago were burning. Millions of people had died in the blink of an eye. Governments tried to respond, sending jets, missiles, and defenses, but nothing worked. The alien fleet, known later as the Varun, was unstoppable. Every attack Earth launched was neutralized with cold precision. Ethan, trained in emergency situations, grabbed his old flight gear and headed to a military bunker on the outskirts of the city. Along the way, he passed streets filled with chaos. Cars were overturned, fires raged through buildings, and injured people screamed for help. He wanted to help them, but he knew he had a role to play. Survival was the first step to fighting back. In the mountains of Colorado, a group of scientists and military leaders convened in secrecy. They had prepared for years for the possibility of an alien attack, but even they were shocked by the scale of destruction. A man named Jason Hale, a general with decades of experience, looked around the room at the gathered team. "We have lost 10 million people in one day," he said quietly, his voice heavy, "and there is no end in sight. The Varun will not stop until they are done. If we wait, humanity will be wiped out." Claire, now at the secret underground lab, joined the council through a secure video link. Her face was pale, and her hands trembled as she spoke. "We have analyzed the signals. Their ships are connected through a network. They act as one. If we attack individually, we cannot win. But if we find a weakness, we may survive. It will not be easy, and many will die." Ethan reached the bunker, joining the small group of survivors. He looked around at the soldiers and scientists who had managed to escape the initial attacks. Fear was written on their faces, but also determination. He recognized a feeling in himself he hadn't felt in years: hope mixed with rage. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, other parts of the world faced the same horror. London, Paris, Beijing, and Sydney all reported similar attacks. No nation could fight back effectively. The Varun fleet was too advanced, too coordinated, and utterly ruthless. Their goal was clear: eliminate humanity entirely. Ethan and Claire, though miles apart, understood the same truth. Earth had been invaded, and humanity was on the brink of extinction. But the human spirit, stubborn and unbroken, refused to surrender. In the underground lab, Claire's team studied the remains of a Varun scout ship that had crashed outside a small town in Arizona. The craft was unlike anything humans had ever seen. Its metal was smooth, black, and seemed to absorb light. Inside, machinery moved without sound, powered by energy humans could barely understand. The signals she had been monitoring were clearly part of the ship's system, a network that connected every vessel in the Varroan fleet. Jason Hale studied the data with a frown. "They are advanced beyond anything we imagined," he said. "But they made a mistake. They underestimated human ingenuity. We can learn from their technology. If we are careful, we can fight back." Ethan trained with the remaining pilots, preparing for missions that seemed almost impossible. Every flight, every drill, reminded him of what they had lost. Friends, families, cities, all gone in an instant. But with each day, their resolve grew. Meanwhile, Claire discovered something shocking. The Varroan network was connected in a way that could be exploited. If Earth could find a way to interfere with the network, it might be possible to disable the fleet, or worse, destroy it completely. "This is our chance," Claire said to Jason during a council meeting. "We can fight back. We can stop them from killing more people. But it will not be easy, and we may lose everything." Jason nodded slowly. "They killed 10 million humans," he said quietly. "If we have a chance to strike back, we have to take it. Humanity cannot simply wait to be erased." As days turned into weeks, the attacks continued. Cities burned, entire regions were reduced to rubble, and millions more died. Yet hidden in bunkers, labs, and forests, small groups of survivors worked tirelessly. Scientists studied alien technology, engineers built new weapons, and soldiers trained for the coming fight. Ethan became a leader among the pilots. His experience and courage inspired others, giving them hope when it seemed impossible. Claire worked day and night decoding signals, trying to understand how the Varroan operated. They both carried the weight of humanity's survival on their shoulders. One night, after a particularly brutal attack on Tokyo, Ethan sat alone, staring at the stars. The sky, once a symbol of freedom and beauty, now seemed like a threat. He remembered his family, lost in the first wave of destruction. He remembered the screams, the fire, the chaos, and he remembered a promise he made to himself. Humanity would survive. Claire, in her lab, finally found a breakthrough. She realized that the Varun ships were not just weapons. They were a network, a single organism controlled by a central command. If they could reach the command ship, if they could insert a signal to disrupt the network, the entire fleet could be destroyed. The council met again, this time with hope in their eyes. "This is our chance," Jason said. "We cannot waste it. We prepare for one final mission."
"It may be our only chance to survive."
Ethan volunteered immediately. He had no hesitation. The memory of 10 million lives lost drove him forward. Claire tried to stop him. "You don't know if you'll survive," she said, her voice trembling. "I don't care," Ethan replied. "After what they did to us, nothing will be the same. I have to do this." The first part of humanity's story had come to a close. 10 million people were gone. Cities were destroyed, and the Varun fleet hovered over Earth, believing their task complete. But in the hearts of the survivors, a fire had been lit. Earth had been wounded. Humanity had been humiliated and nearly erased. But the human spirit, stubborn and defiant, would not accept defeat. Deep in the mountains, in underground labs and bunkers, humans began to prepare. They would learn from the enemy. They would find a weakness. And they would fight back. For every life lost, for every city destroyed, for every scream that echoed in the night, humanity's retaliation would grow stronger. The sky was still filled with alien ships, and the cities were still in ruins. But beneath the surface, In the hidden corners of the world, a plan was forming. A plan born of anger, hope, and the determination to survive. Ethan Cole and Claire Bennett were at the center of it. Ordinary people who had become the seeds of resistance. And one day the Varun would learn that Earth was not defenseless. Earth would not beg. Earth would not surrender. Earth would strike back. And the day the sky turned silent had only just begun. Months passed since the Varun first attacked Earth. Cities lay in ruins, and millions of people had died. The skies above were still dark with alien ships, and every day brought fear and uncertainty. But underground, hidden from the alien sensors, humans worked tirelessly. They were determined to survive, and more than that, to fight back. Claire Bennett spent her days in a secret laboratory, deep under the mountains of Colorado. The lab was cold, filled with the quiet hum of computers and the soft flicker of screens. Everywhere she looked, there were pieces of Varun technology, scraps from ships that had crashed or been captured. Humans had never seen anything like it. The metal seemed alive, the circuits strange and alien, and the energy pulsing from the machines was beyond anything humans could understand. Claire studied the alien devices with care. She had spent months decoding their signals and trying to understand how the Varun network worked. Each day, she grew closer to a discovery that could change the fate of humanity.
They are connected, she explained to Jason Hale. The general leading Earth's resistance. Every ship, every weapon, every signal.
It is all part of a network. If we can find a way to disrupt it, we could stop the attacks. Jason looked at her closely, his face serious. Stop the attacks, yes. But you are suggesting more than that. Are you saying we could destroy their entire fleet? Claire nodded slowly. Yes, it is possible. But we have never tried anything like this before. It is dangerous. It could destroy the fleet, or it could fail completely. Jason leaned back in his chair. We don't have a choice. They are killing us by the millions. If we wait, humanity will end. We must take the risk. Meanwhile, Ethan Cole trained the new pilots who had survived the first attacks. They were young, inexperienced, and terrified, but he had no time to comfort them. Each mission they practiced was a preparation for the impossible. Remember, Ethan said, his voice steady, we are fighting for more than survival. We are fighting for humanity. If we fail, millions will die. If we succeed, we may save billions. The pilots nodded, some with fear, some with determination. Ethan knew that fear was natural. But determination, courage, and hope, that was what kept humans alive. Back in the lab, Claire made a breakthrough. She had discovered that the Varun ships communicated through a quantum network. Why? The network allowed them to share information instantly, even across vast distances. If Earth could send a signal into the network, it could spread like a virus, disrupting all the ships at once. Claire called Jason and Ethan to her lab. The room was filled with tension as she explained her plan. We have a chance to strike at the heart of the Varun fleet, she said. We can send a signal into their network. It could disable their ships or even destroy them completely. But it will be dangerous.
We have no guarantee of survival, and it may not just destroy the fleet, it could affect their entire species.
Ethan stared at her. Are you saying we could erase them? Claire nodded. Yes, if the signal reaches their command systems and spreads through the network, it could eliminate them entirely. There would be no ships left, no colonies, nothing. They could be gone. Die.
Die. Die. Jason Hale did not flinch. They killed 10 million humans.
They attacked our cities without warning. If we have the power to stop them permanently, we must use it. Earth will not wait to be destroyed.
Ethan felt a mix of fear and resolve.
He thought of the people he had lost, the families burned in New York, the children screaming in Chicago, the friends who had vanished in the firestorms. Anger burned in him. Humanity had been attacked, and now they had the chance to strike back. The preparations began. Engineers worked day and night to build a strike craft capable of reaching the Varun command ship. It had to be fast, maneuverable, and able to carry Claire's device, the weapon that could spread through the Varun network. The device itself was unlike any human technology. It combined alien circuits with human coding, a virus designed to disrupt the network and end the Varun threat forever. Ethan studied the craft. It was small, cramped, and dangerous, but it was the only way. He would pilot it himself, carrying the device into the heart of the enemy fleet. Every second counted. Claire worked tirelessly on the device, checking and rechecking every line of code. She had built something humanity had never intended to use, a weapon of extinction. She felt sick when she thought of it, but she also knew it was necessary. The Varun had killed millions. Humanity had no choice. Weeks passed as humans trained, built, and planned. The Varun fleet remained above Earth, unaware that humans were preparing the ultimate strike. They continued their attacks, destroying cities, killing survivors, and spreading fear. Every day was a reminder of what was at stake. Ethan spent time with the other pilots, giving them instructions and sharing his experience. He saw the fear in their eyes, but also determination. They were ready to risk everything. Each of them understood that the mission could mean death, but they also understood that failure meant extinction for all humanity. Claire finally completed the device. She held it in her hands, small but powerful. Its circuits glowed with energy, pulsing like a heartbeat. She felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. One wrong move, and it could fail. One wrong calculation, and humanity could be destroyed. Jason Hale gathered the leaders of the resistance for a final briefing. "This is our chance," he said. "We strike at the Varun command ship. We disrupt their network. And we stop the attacks on Earth. This will be dangerous, but we have no choice. Humanity must survive." Ethan nodded. "I will fly the strike craft. I will deliver the device, and I will do whatever it takes to stop them." Claire looked at him, her eyes filled with worry. "You might not return." Ethan smiled faintly. "None of us will be the same after this, but we have to try." The skies were dark with Varud ships, their shapes massive and silent. Earth's remaining forces launched diversionary attacks, drawing the enemy away from the path Ethan would take. Every human in the resistance knew this could be the final battle. Ethan climbed into the strike craft. The cockpit was tight, the instruments unfamiliar, but he felt ready. Claire's device was secured in front of him. He stared out at the alien fleet, massive ships that seemed unstoppable, and took a deep breath. "This is for humanity," he whispered. The craft launched, cutting through the atmosphere and into the dark sky. Beams of light from the Varun ships struck around him, but the craft moved quickly, dodging the attacks with skill. Ethan's hands gripped the controls, his mind focused on the mission. Claire monitored the device from the lab, watching the energy readings as the craft approached the command ship. The signal had to be inserted into the core, or the entire mission would fail. She felt her heart pound with every second. Inside the Varun fleet, The aliens were unaware of the incoming threat. They continued their attacks on Earth, destroying cities and killing millions more. They did not expect humanity to fight back. They did not expect humans to find a way into their network. Ethan's craft slipped through the enemy defenses, moving closer to the command ship. The massive vessel loomed above him, larger than any building, larger than anything he had ever seen. He maneuvered carefully, avoiding the energy beams and floating debris. Every second was critical. Finally, he reached the command ship. Ethan guided the craft inside, entering the dark corridors filled with alien energy. The core of the ship pulsed with light, the center of the Baroon network. This was the heart of their power. He placed the device into the core, connecting it to the alien systems. The device began to pulse, sending signals into the network. Ethan watched as the lights in the core flickered. Something was happening. The network was reacting. Claire monitored from Earth, her hands trembling. "It's working," she whispered. The network is responding." Ethan's heart pounded. He knew the mission was dangerous, but he felt a sense of purpose stronger than fear. This was humanity's chance. The Varuun had killed millions without mercy. Now humans had the power to stop them. Outside the command ship, the Varuun fleet began to react. Ships trembled, systems failed, and the massive vessels began to collapse. Ethan watched in awe and horror as the alien fleet, so powerful and seemingly unstoppable, started to fall apart from within. Claire's eyes widened. "It's spreading," she said.
The signal is moving through the entire network.
Jason Hale clenched his fists.
It's working.
Humanity has found their weakness, unquote. The signal continued to spread, reaching every ship in the Varuun fleet. Beams of energy faltered, ships collided, and explosions erupted as the network unraveled. Ethan felt the craft shake violently, the force of the collapsing ships around him. He gritted his teeth and held on, determined to complete the mission. For the first time since the attacks began, humanity had hope. They had found a way to fight back. They had found a way to stop the Varuun. Ethan knew the mission was far from over. The core of the fleet still needed to be fully disrupted, but for the first time, humans could imagine a future without the constant terror of the Varuun above. As the craft navigated the collapsing corridors, Ethan prepared for the final steps. He knew the device could not be removed once activated. He would have to make sure it fully connected to the network, or the mission would fail. Claire monitored every signal, guiding Ethan through the process. Her voice was calm but urgent. "You can do this, Ethan. Just a little further. Connect it fully and the fleet will fall." Ethan nodded, moving carefully, placing the device into the final connection point. The core pulsed brightly, the energy spreading outward like ripples in water. Ships around him trembled, exploded, and vanished. The network was collapsing. Outside, the sky above Earth began to clear as the Varuun fleet faltered. Humanity could see the first signs of victory. But Ethan knew the mission was not over until the core was fully disrupted. Claire's voice was steady. "It's done."
The network is collapsing completely. The fleet.
"It's finished." Ethan exhaled, relief washing over him. For the first time, he felt that humanity might survive. He had delivered the device, disrupted the network, and stopped the Varuun from continuing their attacks. But there was no time to celebrate. Ethan's craft had taken damage from the collapsing core. Escape was uncertain. He gripped the controls, preparing for the fight to get out alive. For months, humanity had been hunted, destroyed, and terrorized. But now, for the first time, They had a chance to fight back, to survive, and to reclaim their world. And Claire Bennett, watching the signals, knew that the next steps would define the future of Earth. Humanity had built a weapon unlike anything before. They had struck back against the Varun, but the consequences of their actions would be felt far beyond Earth, and the universe had begun to notice. The war was far from over, but Earth had taken the first step toward victory. Humanity had found a way to survive, and the fire of resistance burned brighter than ever. The night sky was quiet, but the silence was not comforting. The alien fleet hovered above Earth, their massive ships moving slowly like predators. Cities were still smoldering from previous attacks, and the world was watching with fear. Humanity had survived, but barely. Every remaining human knew the Varun could strike again at any moment. Deep underground, Claire Bennett checked the final readings on the device. It was ready. The strike craft, small and fast, waited in the hangar. Every system was tested, every calculation double-checked. There was no margin for error. One mistake, and humanity's chance to survive would be gone forever. Ethan Cole stood at the entrance of the craft, his flight suit fitted tightly, helmet in hand. His eyes scanned the sky through reinforced glass. He had seen the devastation firsthand, watched millions die, and now he held the hope of Earth in his hands. Jason Hale, the general overseeing the mission, stepped forward. "Ethan, this is it. Once you launch, there is no turning back. You will enter the heart of the Varun fleet and deliver the device. If it works, it will disrupt their network and stop their attacks forever. But the risk is total. You may not come back." Ethan nodded, his face calm but determined. "I know what's at stake. I'll do it for Earth, for everyone we lost." Claire approached, placing a hand on the craft. "The device, it's dangerous. If it fails, it could destroy the craft, or worse, fail to stop them. But you are the only one who can do this. Be careful, Ethan. And remember, everyone on Earth is counting on you." Ethan gave a small, tired smile. "I won't fail." The craft's engines roared to life. Humans inside the underground base watched as the small strike ship lifted off, moving quickly through the darkness toward the enemy fleet. Beams of light from the Varun ships cut across the sky, but diversionary attacks from Earth's remaining defenses drew their attention. The path was dangerous, but clear enough for one small ship to slip through. Ethan guided the craft with steady hands. Every second brought him closer to the command ship, the heart of the alien fleet. He watched the massive vessels around him, enormous and deadly, unaware that humanity had found their weakness. Inside the command ship, the Varun continued their attacks on Earth. They did not sense the strike coming. Their network was powerful, but it was vulnerable in one way. They had not expected humans to infiltrate the core. Claire's voice came over the comm system, calm but urgent. "Ethan, you're approaching the core. Remember the connection point. Insert the device carefully. Once it starts, the network will begin to collapse. Everything depends on this moment." Ethan focused, maneuvering the craft through the alien corridors. The inside of the command ship was massive and strange. Light pulsed along the walls, moving like flowing water. Machines hummed without sound. Energy moving through the ship like blood through veins. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Finally, he reached the central chamber. The core of the fleet pulsed with bright light, the center of the Varun network. Ethan felt the weight of the mission pressing down on him. One wrong move, one miscalculation, and it could fail. But he had come too far to stop now. He placed the device carefully into the core, Its circuits glowed, pulsing like a heartbeat. Ethan watched as the core's lights flickered. Something was happening. The network was reacting to the device, and the signal began to spread. "Claire, it's working," Ethan whispered into the comm. Claire's eyes widened as she watched the readings. The signal.
It's moving through the network. Every ship is being affected.
"Ethan, it's really working." Outside, the Varan fleet began to shake. Massive ships faltered, weapons failed, and systems collapsed. Energy beams misfired, striking other ships and causing explosions. The fleet, once unstoppable, was now in chaos. Ethan felt the craft shake violently as the core continued to destabilize. He gritted his teeth, gripping the controls tightly. He had to make sure the device was fully connected. If the connection failed, the fleet could recover, and humanity would be lost. As the signal spread, the destruction escalated. Ships exploded one by one, folding in on themselves or being torn apart from within. The sky above Earth was filled with fire and smoke, a display of power unlike anything humans had ever seen. Claire watched with a mix of awe and fear. "It's spreading to their colonies," she said quietly. "The device, it's affecting their entire species." Jason Hale clenched his fists, staring at the feed. "Good," he muttered. "They killed 10 million humans. They deserved nothing less." Ethan guided the craft deeper into the core, ensuring the device was fully integrated. The pulsing light grew brighter, and the hum of alien energy filled the cabin. He could feel the immense power of the network, the intelligence of the Varoon species, and yet he also felt its fragility. One small signal, and it could all end. Suddenly, the core's energy surged violently, shaking the craft. Ethan was thrown against the seat, struggling to maintain control. Sparks flew, lights flickered, and the device pulsed wildly. He gritted his teeth, focusing on the mission. Failure was not an option. "Almost there," Claire's voice urged. "Keep it steady. Don't let the connection fail." With careful adjustments, Ethan managed to stabilize the craft. The device's pulse synchronized with the network, spreading outward like ripples across a pond. One by one, the Varoon ships collapsed. Energy fields failed, weapons discharged erratically, and the massive vessels began to vanish. The sky above Earth was filled with silent destruction. The fleet that had once terrorized the planet was now falling apart, erased by the very network that had made them so powerful. Communities formed quickly, people helping each other in ways they had not before. There was fear, yes, but also determination. Humanity would survive, and slowly, life began to return. Claire and Ethan met on a hill overlooking the city. The sun rose over the ruins, casting long shadows across broken streets. They looked at each other, both exhausted, both carrying the weight of what had happened. "We did it," Ethan said quietly. "The Varun Ba."
They're gone?
Claire nodded, her eyes distant. "But at what cost? Millions dead. Cities destroyed. And we erased an entire species." Ethan's jaw tightened. "They tried to erase us first." "Woo." Claire looked at him. "I know. I didn't think it would feel like this. Hollow." Ethan put a hand on her shoulder. "We survived, and that means something."
We will rebuild. We will remember the lost.
"And we will make sure humanity never faces this alone again." Meanwhile, across the world, humans were beginning to understand the scale of what had happened. News spread slowly, carried by survivors who had witnessed the destruction. They told stories of cities destroyed, millions of lives lost, and the final strike that had eradicated the Varun fleet.
Governments reformed from the ashes. Leaders emerged who had survived the attacks, people who had learned from the chaos.
Military commanders, scientists, engineers all worked together to rebuild society. The lesson of the Varuan attacks was clear. Earth had to be prepared for the future. Humanity could not rely on hope alone. Claire returned to her lab, determined to study the remaining alien technology. Even in the absence of the Varuun, their machines still held secrets. If humans could learn from them, they could prevent another invasion, another disaster. Knowledge was power, and humanity needed every advantage they could get.